Hey there. Welcome to episode 44 of Toy Talk with Mike and Chad. Right now it's just me, Mike, but Chad is coming over tomorrow and it will be his first time seeing my toy room now that I've got it all renovated. So I've been shooting footage as I've been completing the renovation. So I want to show you guys kind of the process as to how I got to the not quite finished product, but I'm going to show you all that, and then I'll cut to the footage of me and Chad actually completing our episode when he comes tomorrow. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So stay tuned. If you don't care about the renovation, you can just skip past that to when me and Chad are talking about our latest toys. So here is the toy room currently. So it is completely bare. But yeah, not very large space. It's got a bit of an indented shelf along this wall. And that's the whole thing. So now I've got my baseboards all taped off, my windows, and I painted the ceiling. So I know you guys probably can't tell, but it's a fresh coat of white on the ceiling there. And now I can begin adding some color to these walls. Okay, this is my first pass at adding some green. Just finishing another coat of the green. So this is coming along nicely here. This whole little area all green. And then this wall over here is green. And now I've added the black. So this is getting close to what the finished room should look like. Still needs some touch-ups and probably a second coat in some spots. But yeah, this is it. Now this might not look too different from the last update, but I've gone over everything with a second coat, so the colors are looking nice and crisp. I've done some edging as best as I can, so there's still some spots that I gotta fix up, but otherwise this is what we're dealing with, and I think it's coming together pretty good. So I've got all the tape off of the walls. I cleaned up all the paint speckle on the floor and everything. There's still a few spots that I think I need to touch up where the color's not quite as saturated as I'd like it to be. But overall, pretty much done and ready to start bringing some furniture back into this room. And so it begins. I've got my desk where I do all my Instagram and most of my toy review videos, and my desk chair, and now the shelves, and then the toys. So here is the first bookshelf in place. All this stuff you see cluttering my table and my windowsill, that was all stuff that was crammed onto this shelf while it was in the other room. But now that I've moved this shelf in here, I'm going to populate it with my G.I. Joe classified figures. Right now you'll see I've got some of the carded retro figures that I haven't opened. And then just for consistency, I put some cards from some of the retro figures that I have already opened. So yeah, this presently is like the only white shelf I have. So I'm gonna populate this one. And then for these other walls here, I'm gonna have to buy some white shelving or perhaps use my old black shelving as a placeholder until I can get some white ones. So just to give you an idea of what I went through when I was packing up my toys, every figure is individually bagged in a plastic bag so they don't get scuffed up. So yeah, I went through a lot of bags and a lot of time. Anyway, let's get these guys unpacked. So here is shelf number 1 fully populated. Now, previously this shelf had my G.I. Joe classified figures on 4 shelves, and there was still room to grow, but somehow, in the short time that I had my G.I. Joes packed up, they seem to have multiplied, and now they have taken up the entire shelf. There's still some room to grow, but not a lot. So you can see the bottom shelf here, which is still essentially empty. I've got my Tiger Force characters. Then up here, I've got a smattering of G.I. Joes. More Joes up here. Then we move on to the Cobra shelf, including my 2 Televipers with Trouble Bubbles that I just got yesterday. And then more Cobras up here. And lastly, more Cobras up here. Now, I don't know if there'll be enough room, but I have pre-ordered both the Hiss Tank and the Dragonfly helicopter. So I'm hoping maybe at least one of those will fit on the top of this shelf, but probably before the end of the year, I'm going to have to expand my G.I. Joes onto another shelf. So this white bookcase with my G.I. Joes was the only white shelving I had before I started this little renovation. I do want to replace all the shelving I had before with this white style shelving. I went to IKEA yesterday and I did buy my first new piece. So I have assembled this calyx shelf here. And as you can see, I've thrown some Transformers up there. I was thinking that maybe I would put Snake Mountain, but unfortunately it's just a smidge too tall to be placed on top. So anyway, now that this is all built, I'm going to populate it with Transformers and hopefully they fit on here okay. So here is the Transformer shelf fully populated. Now they fit on here pretty good, but I was taking 2 bookshelves that were substantially higher than this and I crammed them all in here. There were a few figures that I had to take out of the display. For example, some characters that I had doubles of. I had a few of my vintage Transformers, especially some larger ones like Metroplex and Omega Supreme out as part of my Transformers collection, but I had to put them away. I don't have any vintage figures out anymore. So here I'll give you a quick closer look at the modern Transformers collection. So this is pretty much all made up of Transformers from the last 10 years or so. So we come down here. Now, the way I tried to do it is on the right-hand side is all Decepticons. So you see this whole box here is all Decepticons. These are all Decepticons, pretty much all Seekers. And up top, the bad guys here are all on this side as well, with the exception of some of the largest guys. I've got Metroplex and Omega Supreme over on the wrong side here. And the other side, it's all heroic Autobots, with the exception of Trypticon and Predaking. So going down here, again, we've got all Autobots. Autobots all through here. More Autobots. Autobots, including the Dinobots. And we're over to Decepticons. 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 Autobots. Autobots. And down here on the bottom, again, Autobots. Autobots. And then this cube here, I pretty much have reserved just for Primus, because I tried to fit all my big Transformers up on the top, but I had nowhere to put him. Fortunately, I managed to have enough space so he could have his own cube. But I don't know if this is how it's gonna stay. I did try and put some thought into how I displayed all these Transformers, but you know, there's pretty much no room to grow the way it is set up, and I am still currently buying Transformers. So additional changes will have to be made. Some of these characters might still need to be boxed up. But for now, as a starting point, I think it looks pretty good. So moving on from Transformers, my next step is to populate this wall over here, which currently there's nothing on this wall. Now you'll see I've already kind of started populating it with Masters of the Universe characters and paraphernalia. It's a little bit of a mix of Masters of the Universe classics mixed with Masters of the Universe Origins, even with some vintage. And so yeah, this whole wall I hope to have as Masters of the Universe, at least as far as the ledge goes. Now you'll see here I still have a few Masters of the Universe figures to add to my display, including the whole bag of Skeletors here. These figures are over here waiting to be reviewed. Hopefully I'll do some videos of these guys here soon. But other than these guys, all my Masters of the Universe figures from Origins, Classics, and Revelations are on display, and I think it looks pretty good. So here we go. There's my full Masters of the Universe display. And we'll take a closer look. So this shelf here isn't very populated because Snake Mountain is obscuring it. But you can see I've got Granomir up top. I've got a He-Man in the Wind Raider. That's actually from the Origins line. So he's a little lost because most of my other Origins figures are elsewhere. Then I've got some of the accessories from the Snake Mountain, like the Bone Throne here and the table, with a couple of the Evil Warriors hanging out here. But otherwise, like, there's still an empty shelf back here. And so I can maybe squeeze some more figures in there if I need to. You got Mantenna hanging out at the top of Snake Mountain, populated by a few other characters. Skeletor up on the bridge there. The Sorceress is chained up to Snake Mountain. So all kinds of characters, including Filmation ones, including the live action movie figures, some of the giants and some of the horses. And then right about here, when we get to the tentacles from Snake Mountain, we switch over to the Origins line. So you see it ends with like Blade and Skeletor here for Classics. And now we're over into Origins. So they bring us right to the edge of the shelf. Now up here on the ledge, I've got my Masters of the WWE Universe, which is kind of a subset of Origins. So they're on display here. Some more stray figures from Origins. Some random vehicles up here. And then on the ledge, I've got my Origins figures displayed in front of a vintage Snake Mountain. And then some heroic characters displayed on top of the Origins version of Castle Grayskull. And then my Snake Men displayed in front of the vintage Castle Grayskull. And then as we go down here to the individual compartments, I tried to put a little thought into them. Like you'll see here, this has got all the new adventures of He-Man villains all kind of lumped together with that version of Skeletor. Down here, not a whole lot of rhyme or reason, just bad guys, essentially. This shelf is all Horde members. This shelf is all Snake Men. Just random heroic characters here. Again, heroic characters. Heroic. Bad guys. Heroic again. Heroic. This is started off with like regular bad guys in the back, like Trapjaw, but then my last couple of Snake Men up front. Some more of the Evil Warriors. Heroic characters here. The rest of my Evil Horde. And now over here is my last couple of classic figures mixed in with my Revelation figures. And then this last compartment, still pretty empty. Just a couple of Revelation figures in there. So there you go. That is my Masters of the Universe collection. Now, I forgot to mention them, but you might have seen these items in some of the previous footage. But another couple of new items I got is this area rug and this chair. So I actually bought 2 identical chairs. Just one of them is on order, so it's not going to arrive for a couple of weeks yet. But that will be kind of nice for when me and Chad do our videos together, because we've always just kind of used mismatched chairs before, and so we were always sitting at different heights, and it was sometimes a little awkward. So hopefully these new chairs will be a little more comfortable, and you know, they also add a little bit more color to the room, which there is lots of now. So I've got these 2 shelves completed that I showed you earlier. I have been tweaking them ever so slightly the last few days. Like I threw a Beastman, a carded Beastman figure I have over here, some other little things like that. But the rest of the room is still pretty bare. So like this whole wall is pretty empty. Now, as I said, I want to get white shelves for all the walls, but I think because I've already spent a lot of money in this room in a very short amount of time, I'm probably gonna have to put the brakes on before I buy any more of these shelves. So rather than keep my toys boxed up for a really long time, I think I am going to bring in a couple of my old black shelves for this wall here, and I'm going to populate them with Marvel Legends, just kind of as a temporary measure until I can buy some more white shelving. So yeah, I think I'm going to slide those guys in here, and I'll show you once I get them set up. So here is my Marvel Legends collection. I did manage to squeeze them all onto these 2 shelves, but they are packed on here very densely. This is by no means how I intend to display them on a permanent basis. Now, I did put a little bit of thought to these figures when I threw them up here. Now, the figures displayed on the tops of the shelves, there's not much rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's just that these figures were too big, either too tall or too wide to display in the cubes below. But otherwise, these shelves here, so this is an X-Men shelf. These are all X-Men characters. Now you can see these characters are all leaning on one another. There's like no space between these figures. So that is not how I will display these on a permanent basis. I would like to get display stands for them, or maybe put some stick tack on their feet. I'm really scared of them falling down because I don't want them to hit the hard floor and break. So right now they're just all pushed back. So I've got X-Men, more X-Men, more X-Men, MCU characters, just some Hulks along the bottom, Fantastic Four, kind of random superheroes / Avengers, more of those, my Iron Man shelf, Spider-Mans, more Spider-Mans, random superheroes, and random superheroes. Now over here, this shelf is all villains. So these are all Spidey villains over here. Spidey villains, MCU villains, more Spidey villains, some big figures along the bottom. Then I've got a kind of a mixture of symbiotes and other villains. This is a whole shelf full of symbiotes or symbiotes. X-Men villains, just kind of a mixture of villains, mixed villains, more X-Men villains, and then some mixed villains. So this is all just temporary, but until I can afford to buy some more white shelving, this is where these guys will stay. So at least for now, this is essentially the room. Don't mind the mess on the desk, but there you go. Hey there, welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 44. I'm Mike.
I'm Chad.
And if you've made it this far in here, I already put an intro to show you the renovation of the toy room, I guess. And here we are. So this is Chad's first time seeing it. What do you think?
Love it. I like how your Masters collection is pretty much all in the same spot. And I think Snake Mountain and like Castle Grayskull just look fantastic up there. The colors are sharp. Pretty much everything. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, these guys will have already seen it because I gave a little tour. It's still a work in progress. Even this is our first time shooting in here, and I wasn't sure the angle because it was a little boring. I had it tilted to the side a little bit, but this whole black wall is still all blank. So I tilted us a little bit so you could get more fun stuff in the background. But and I did order 2 of these nice new blue chairs that you're sitting in, but I was still sitting in my old computer chair. So hopefully my other blue chair will arrive soon.
It's like October 8th or something, didn't they say?
They said October.
Okay.
And as we're shooting this, it's what, the
5th of September.
25th, yeah. So hopefully, a week or 2, I don't know, maybe 3. But anyway, we're going to shoot a few episodes today.
Yeah.
And it'll take me a couple weeks to probably post them all. So probably by the next time we're shooting episodes again, I should have my new chair. And hopefully I'll have worked out the logistics of how we're going to shoot in here. I might even have some new shelving by then. But, yeah, as I mentioned in my earlier footage, I probably need to put the brakes on the renovation for now. Because just, like, I bought, like, the 2 new chairs, the new rug, this new shelf, these new shelves, all the paint, new light fixture, paint supplies.
Oh yeah, I missed that. That's super cool.
Yeah, the new light fixture is kind of cool in that it's got a remote, and I can change the settings so we can go from light to cool if we want a nice orange. Let's see how it looks on camera here for you.
It's actually making my transition lenses go dark. It's kind of cool.
Right, so here's, let me say, warm mode.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of more of an orange lighting. I don't know how much that affects here. There's like soft and neutral, bright, cool. And then there's night light mode, which this just really dims it down.
Oh, that's awesome.
That might even look better.
I think that does look better.
Yeah, because one of the problems I find with shooting in here is I always have it's very shadowy.
Yeah.
Like, so if you watch my earliest episodes before, because right now I have a ring light that's attached in front of us, which projects sunlight on us. But the first couple episodes I did, I look like, I'm just holding like a flashlight under my chin because I was just had the lighting come down here. So yeah, maybe night mode is the way to go.
Night mode's cool.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So we have lots of new toys to talk about. But because I already wasted a lot of time at the beginning of this episode with the little toy room tour, we're just going to start this one off as a miscellaneous episode. I have some odds and ends. You didn't bring any odds and ends, but you did get...
I did get at least Action Comics Superman #1.
Right. So that's McFarlane Multiverse based on the first appearance of Superman.
Yeah.
What do you think of him?
He's pretty ugly. I'm not a fan. I mean, it's a cool sculpt. Like, I like the face and everything. The body is just so boring because it's all blue. And McFarlane has been giving, I don't know if it's just for the deluxe versions or like the collector's ones now, but he's been giving these little base stands that you can put the trading card on. Mm-hmm. And it has the cover of Action Comics #1.
Yeah.
Superman's got his traditional red boots. The figure has blue boots. So right there, that's kind of a disappointment because I mean you're trying to capture like one of DC's main characters, and you're not even doing it justice. Like you're
like
lazy with the toy.
Iconic image.
Yeah.
Of Superman holding the car up over his head from the first Superman comic book or the first Superman appearance, and he got it wrong. Like And you were saying that apparently he's got just blue boots inside of the comic book.
Yeah, which was a coloring issue.
Probably a coloring error. He probably was supposed to have red boots. So yeah, I don't know why the figure, they would do it wrong, especially when they give you a little displayable print to display next to
with
it.
the red boots.
To point out glaringly the error that they made.
Yeah.
Plus, it just looked like an ugly figure anyway.
I like the face, because the face was probably the best part of the figure itself. But when you put it on that drab body, it's like they just repainted a Superman body. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. Amazon actually screwed up on that one, so they lost the Superman. It was lost for like 6 days. I contacted them, complained. They sent me out a new one to replace that one. The next day, the one I complained about showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. And then the replacement shipped. They lost that. And then like 5 days later, it showed up.
So what constitutes lost then? They're tracking over
They said it made it to Dartmouth, which is like a small part outside of Halifax. And they basically said, we lost the package. We don't have any tracking info for it. And I was like, well, it shows that it arrived at the facility. So how do you lose it in the facility?
It's just weird that you would lose two, and then they both made it probably within the allotted time, almost like just a couple of days after. Anyway,
but that also happened with that Scarecrow before the Jorge Jimenez.
But that showed up
Scarecrow.
eventually too. Right?
It did. So I got two of those.
Yeah.
But I just went and traded it in to the.
Like, I know Amazon is like a bajillion-dollar company.
Yeah.
But you think even they would be like, if you call and complain, say, well, can you give it a day or two? It'll probably show up. Because if your experience is 3 times now, you've ordered something, it gets lost, you complain, they send you a second one, but then the original shows up in a day or two anyway. It's like...
Yeah. Well, it had been like... First of all, it shipped late, and then it had been like 6 days...
Yeah.
Past the arrival time, and there was still no update beyond, oh, we don't know where your package is.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a shame that figure's not great, because it is an iconic image. It would make a cool figure. But yeah, I don't think they got it right.
I might see if I can get my friend Adam to paint his boots red. I'm not normally... a fan of customizing figures, but that just really bothers me.
So speaking of Superman, I got a new Superman. So you saw them already, but I went to the dollar store the other day, and I will say they're stepping up their toy game compared to just a couple years ago. It was still like little bags of green soldiers and stuff, but now they've got like Marvel figures, they've got like Transformers, they've got He-Man figures. Anyway, this doesn't quite fall into the category of action figure, but I got this guy, and they're called Ushis. And I'd never seen them before, but it was in a little box, and I assumed when I read the name Ushi, it just makes me think of squishy and smushy. I thought he was going to be like a stress ball, kind of like foam, but he is rock hard. But yeah, he's kind of like a little super deformed Superman in the vein of like a Funko Pop, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think he was cute.
He's charming.
Yeah. And I really shouldn't be buying stuff like that. If he had been like a $20 figure somewhere, I never would have bought it. But because he was only a couple of bucks, he's not going to break my bank. But money isn't the only problem. I'm running out of space.
Yeah.
One thing that sucks about redoing this room is I had a lot of stuff crammed in here. Like, every section of the wall was covered. I had some floating shelves. I had carded figures pinned up all over the walls. This time around, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm not saying... I might not leave it as blank as it looks behind us right now, but I might put, like, maybe one floating shelf up there above Castle Grayskull. But I don't want to put a bunch of carded figures all up over the walls. And that does make for a lot more figures that I don't know where to put them. And I might have to put a lot more stuff in storage, which sucks. Because when you buy something brand new and then it immediately goes into a bin, you're like, what? Why did I even bother? So even though he was only a couple of bucks, he is kind of thing. Like I'll squeeze him over with my Funko Pops in the other room there, but I probably should have just saved my like $4 and called it a day. But instead of $4, I wasted $8 because I bought Batman as well.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's funny because I've got a friend on Instagram. He used to be my old supervisor at Blockbuster, Rob. And he busts my balls on Instagram every time I post a new action figure. He's just always like, you just waste so much money. Like, how does your wife not kill you buying all this stuff? He makes all these jokes. And so then when I posted these, I put kind of a self-deprecating comment like, I can't help myself but wasting some money or something along those lines. And then he was like, you're ridiculous. Like, you keep, pissing your money away on nonsense. And I was like, well, don't I get a little credit? I left Wonder Woman and Cyborg behind. I only got Batman and Superman. And then he was like, you left Wonder Woman behind? You have to buy Wonder Woman. They're the Trinity. You got to go back and get her. And I'm like, look at you. Like, encouraging me to go buy these things.
Stop being an enabler. That's my job.
And he almost convinced me too. I was like, should I buy Wonder Woman? And I like Wonder Woman okay, but to me she's not, I don't care so much about the Trinity so much as I do the world's finest duo here.
Yeah, that's right.
So, anyway. So, we've already talked about these longer than I should have.
They're super cute. You could put them on, like, your work desk.
Yeah, but these are the kind of things that are great for the guy that likes Superman and Batman but doesn't collect toys. Like a Funko Pop. I think that's kind of the big market for Funko Pops. Is you've got a dad that likes Die Hard. You get him a Die Hard Pop and that's it. But for somebody like you and me who already have, like, I probably have 20 Batman in my collection, if not more. You probably have 50. It's like, do we really need this Batman? But anyway.
Like your Merman is my Batman.
Yeah.
You buy every Merman, I buy every
Yeah, but Merman, even if I had every single Merman ever created in any format, Funko Pop, whatever, there's probably still only less than 30 there in total.
Yeah.
If you had every single Batman ever made, you'd have like tens of thousands of them probably. And I don't even think I'm exactly. There's so many. So anyway, I might cut in a really quick little shot of these guys up close so you can see just how cute they are. So here's a quick close-up of the Ushis. So you can see they're pretty cute. They've got really big feet, which I've said before how I really like my action figures to have big feet like this. I just like the aesthetic. Plus it makes sure that they don't topple off of a shelf. So yeah, out of the two of these, I think I like Superman more. Just his kind of pose of him puffing his chest forward. Looks like he's maybe about to take off into flight. But yeah, I just think these are really cute. So anyways, just if you're wondering how they size up to say a Funko Pop, here is a Batman Funko. So they're not exactly, these guys are a little bit taller, but I have a pretty big collection of Funko Pops out in my other room, and I think I am going to try and squeeze these guys into that collection. This is one thing that I have to figure out with the new seating arrangement as well, is whenever we're together on camera like this and I try and do a split screen, unless we're really close together, one of us kind of gets cut off. And so I tried to always get our chairs pretty close together in the old setup, but now with the way these chairs are kind of like angled and sloped, we're not going to be able to sit like elbow to elbow. So I don't know how the split screen is going to work, but anyway.
I dig the rug too.
Yeah, I did show these guys. I got a new area rug. It's I'm not sure all these colors work together.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm colorblind, but they absolutely do.
The original vision for this room, I thought I would do green, like I have here, and purple as instead of black. And I was thinking it was going to be kind of an accent to Snake Mountain here behind me. I was kind of thinking along of Devastator or the Green Goblin. I wanted a room that kind of had those colors. But I knew I was going to get new chairs for us that matched, and I knew I wanted an area rug for the room. And you can't just go out to the mall and buy chairs and a rug of any color. You have to kind of see what's around. And so I found this purple rug. And then I thought, well, if I have a big purple rug, is purple on the walls going to be overkill? And then I maybe would have wanted green chairs, but I could either find like black, red, or blue. I went with the blue. So yeah,
purple rug, blue chairs, green walls. I don't know if it all works, but I think it works okay.
I think the black accent is a lot nicer than the purple would have been.
Yeah, me too. I like the black. Although I do worry this paint is kind of easy to scuff. Like I've been putting figures on my shelf there, my little ledge, and every time I pick one up, I feel like the slightest little bit of resistance, like maybe their feet are kind of like sticking to the paint. Yeah. And if I'm scared I'm going to pick one of my He-Mans up one day and just 2 big black patches will be stuck to his feet. And anyway, I don't know how frequently I'll have to do touch-ups in here, but time will tell. Okay, next new figure. Maybe since we're talking about Masters of the Universe, I'll show you these guys. So I collect the Masters of the Universe Origins figures, and I'm kind of a completist with those. So every time I get a new set of figures, I do my own kind of little Mike's Collection video, usually when you're not around for those. But there's also the Masterverse figures, which I don't really collect. So I consider them they fall into my odds and ends miscellaneous category. So I have a couple of them to talk about. So
Origins is the line that I want to get into, right?
Yeah, Origins is the little squatty ones that look like the vintage one. Yeah. Now, the Masterverse figures are nice. This is Savage He-Man from the Masterverse line. And these guys are like 6-7 inch figures. They're really articulated. They have double jointed knees and elbows. They've got swivel waist. All the modern articulation you would want in an action figure. The sculpts are really nice for the most part. So yeah, if I didn't have any Masters of the Universe figures in my collection, and the Origins and the Revelation line both came out right now, and I had to collect one, I might actually choose Revelation over Origins. But the thing is, I already have a pretty complete line of Classics figures, which is, you can see some of them behind me. But they were a line of 6-inch, pretty detailed figures that came out a few years ago. So this feels a little repetitive to me to be buying all the figures again. What I like about Origins is that it's a different scale. It kind of reminds me more of the ones from when I was a kid. But all in all, like 6 inches is my preferred scale for collectibles in general. Anyway, Savage He-Man here. You probably didn't. You were too young to get into on the early wave of Masters. You were born in 83, right?
82.
82. Yeah. Which I think it was 83. I think was the first year of Masters of the Universe. And so I had those very first figures. And it was before the cartoon came out, and they came packaged with these mini comics. Yes. And I was pretty fascinated by those mini comic books. The artwork was very cool. I think it was, kind of stylized on like Frank Frazetta. Like it was grown up, looking drawings and stuff. It wasn't like kitty and googly eyes or anything. Skeletor has never looked scarier than he did in those mini comics. Merman wasn't like a bumbling henchman. Like the henchmen were all competent. So, for a lot of people, the mini comics are their favorite lore, like besides the cartoon, besides the live action movie, and I totally get that. Anyway, the first mini comic ever showed He-Man. Now, they didn't necessarily call him Savage He-Man, but he was, for all intents and purposes, a caveman. He just had a hairy loincloth, and he wandered off into the woods, and he met the goddess, who was like basically an early version of she kind of became the sorceress by the time the lore was fully developed. But the goddess gave him his harness and his sword and his shield and everything, which made him become He-Man. But it wasn't really like a magical transformation the way it was in the cartoons and stuff, like where he was like a wimp and then he turned into a hero. It's like he was already a big muscly savage caveman. Now he had this stuff. Anyway, I always liked the idea of kind of a savage caveman-y He-Man. And they made one in the Classics line, but I didn't get him because he was like a convention exclusive. They named him Ular. I don't know where they came up with that name, but almost so then you could treat him as a separate character from He-Man, but he was essentially Savage He-Man. Anyway, so when this figure came out, I thought, well, I got to get this guy, because one of the things that makes me buy a Revelations figure is if it fills a hole in my Classics collection. So since I never got Ular, I decided to buy Savage He-Man here. And I don't know. I don't think he looks as good as Ular. Like, I would probably rather have that figure in my collection. But this guy's pretty cool. So
this is based off the Netflix.
Well, see, that's the funny thing is like, it is based on a Netflix show, and if you watched that, didn't you?
Yeah.
And there is a scene where He-Man becomes savage, but he bulks up like the Hulk, like he's like a really heavy, like big guy, but this figure looks nothing like the savage He-Man from the show. It looks much more like the He-Man from the old mini comics in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they were really going like. If they were trying to go for the Masterverse show, like the Revelation show, they should have made him like 4 times as big as that.
Right. So with He-Man then, was this his original hairstyle, or is the original hair like that god-awful looking mullet thing?
Yeah, like, so even going back to the original mini comics, He-Man's hair didn't really change from when he was Savage to when he was He-Man. Okay. It was kind of a bowl cut.
Okay.
The long hair like this, that is true to the Revelation cartoon from Netflix.
Yeah.
Because even the Ular figure had the short bowl cut. So, yeah, they took the modern interpretation with the hair, but they kept him down to size-wise, more like the vintage. So, anyway. I don't really care what version it's based on. I just think he's kind of cool.
Yeah, he looks cool.
Yeah. And he came with some, he got, do I have it on here? I think he came with a sword and a shield. So you didn't have to give him a spear. You could kind of make him more of a He-Man if you wanted to.
Well, that's a nice sturdy spear, though.
Yeah, well, I like the spear, and I'm going to display him as Savage He-Man. So yeah,
spear makes sense.
I have plenty of other regular He-Mans.
He-Man.
He-Man, yeah. I don't know. But
yeah, he's cool. I like him.
Cool. There is an issue with his head. He's kind of always stuck looking down because his hair is too long, so you can't put his head all the way back.
Well, plus the neck muscles are
so that's not ideal. But anyway, this figure is actually I think it's from 2021.
Okay.
And I did see it, and I did kind of want to buy it when it first came out, but it was a deluxe figure, so it was about like $60 for the set, and that's because he came with Orko. This is your favorite character?
Yeah. Well, just because I like mages.
Yeah, but
we've gone through this before. I know.
We have.
You know.
Influenza. Yeah. Like, I don't hate Orko, but for him to be your favorite character in a storyline that has Merman, Beastman, Trapjaw.
I know.
You know, there's 100 cooler characters, but I get it. If you like that type of character, he was the comic relief, all that sort of stuff, and he was a magician.
Now, I will say I do like this style better than the traditional Orko.
Yeah, I think that's the best Orko's ever looked. Like, I have the Classics Orko, which looks like he did in the cartoon, essentially. And I have the Origins Orko. Again, he kind of looks like the cartoon version of Orko. I do have the 2002 version of Orko, which was... The 2002 Masters of the Universe line was very kind of stylized to look kind of like, you know, anime or something. And that was the best Orko had ever looked at the time. But I think this new interpretation is probably even better than the 2002 version. I like the look. I like the textures on the cloth and everything there, or on the fake cloth.
The fake cloth,
but he doesn't have any articulation on his elbows.
No, which is weird.
His arms are really thin; they feel kind of breakable.
I mean, they go. Yeah, I wouldn't try to.
Now he does have a clear display base that kind of makes him look like he's hovering, which I like that. So yeah, it's a cool figure. But because I'm not a big Orko fan, I didn't really feel I needed this. It kept me from buying Savage He-Man for a long time. But I found it at Toys R Us the other day for $20 instead of $60. So, you know, the fact I would have bought the Savage He-Man for $20 just on his own.
Yeah.
The fact that I got Orko as a free bonus, essentially.
Was there more than?
There might have been one more.
Okay, it's probably gone.
I don't know. Consider this thing's been sitting around for years. It's not like there's a mad scramble to get it. So you might still find it. It was at the Dartmouth location. So there's that. And there was another toy there that I got on the same trip. This is another figure that was a deluxe figure, so he was also $60. and I passed on it in the past. But he was also on sale for $20. There was only one of him. But this is King Grayskull as he appeared in the Revelation cartoon. So it also falls under the Masterverse banner. And this guy's pretty cool. I probably wouldn't have bought this figure because I already have a King Grayskull that I'm pretty satisfied with from the Classics line. But they did a little race swap on King Grayskull. In the Classics line, when they basically invented King Grayskull for the first time, he was a white guy. He looked like He-Man, except with longer hair. And then when they did the Revelation cartoon, they swapped him and they made him a black guy. And to me, it kind of just makes him feel like a whole different character.
Yeah.
Like, the look is basically the same. But, so I thought, well, I kind of want this guy so I can have white King Grayskull and black King Grayskull. But he wasn't worth $60 to me because he doesn't even come with an Orko. Basically, all he comes with 2 swords. He comes with the kind of standard He-Man shield. And then he has an alternate head. So it's kind of one's got a sneer and one has a non-sneer.
Neutral face.
Yeah, like I like that when toys come with swappable heads, but not. It doesn't justify premium pricing for me because you're only going to display them with one head. The other one's going to go into my bin. So, yeah, I wanted this guy when he came out in 2022, I think. But I just ignored him until recently because he was on sale for $20. So, any thoughts on him?
I know nothing about him, but right away I can tell you I love the cape and the, fake fur up at the top.
It's got a cloth cape and it's wired, so you can pose it. So you can kind of make the cape look like it's flowing in the wind behind him.
Super cool.
And then, faux fur collar.
Yeah.
There's not much to know about this guy. Like I said, he was created during the Classics line. Around 2009 was the first time he ever showed up. He was supposed to be He-Man's ancestor that Castle Grayskull is named after. They fleshed him out a little bit in the Revelation cartoon. But they did change his look.
So, who is King Randor then?
Well, King Randor is He-Man's dad. Yeah. So this guy is somewhere down the lineage.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works, especially with the race swap. It kind of maybe complicates things a little bit more, but whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him too. So here's a quick closer look at all of the Masters of the Universe figures. So here is the Orko. So he's got that clear display base, which has some articulation, so you can move that around some. But I really like the look of him. You can see how his scarf and his tunic have a texture, so it looks like they're, real material. I like the flow of his scarf. I just like the look of him. He looks pretty cool. But what I don't love is he's only got that one joint on his arms. It would have been kind of nice if he could pose at the elbows or maybe at the wrists. That way you could get him in some poses like he's doing some spells. Now for a quick comparison, here is my Classics Orko. So this guy is modeled more after the cartoon model. A little bit like the vintage toy, I guess. But you can see this guy here is much more stylized. But he definitely doesn't look as much like a Saturday morning cartoon as the Classics version. I really like this one. So not bad as far as Orko goes. And with Savage He-Man here, I think this is a pretty cool figure. I like that they've given this wash over his body. I don't know if it's supposed to look like he's grimy or what, but it does help to bring out some of the definition in his muscles and stuff. And I think it looks all right. The head sculpt is okay. If anything, I think he maybe looks a little too friendly. He has a bit of a scowl on his face, I guess, but just, I don't know. He's too clean cut looking a little bit. I don't know what it is exactly, but for this to be a Savage, I feel he could look a little rougher around the edges. But otherwise, he looks good. One aspect of this figure that I think is definitely superior to the Ular figure that came out in Classics is the ankles. I thought that Ular kind of had cankles in that you didn't really get that definition from the calf to the foot, but here you do. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm pretty pleased with this figure. And lastly, we have King Grayskull. I really like the sculpt of his face here. That's the angrier face. Here is the more neutral face. I don't know which one I like better, But this is probably the one that I'll display him with, just because that's the one that was on him when I bought him. But yeah, you get the faux fur on the back there, the wired cape. So yeah, it's all pretty cool. He's got the two swords, which look like they're modeled after the 2000X sword, which is kind of a double-bladed thing that connected. So yeah, overall pretty cool. And just for a quick comparison, I'll grab my Classics King Grayskull. And this is also a good opportunity for you guys to see how these Revelation figures stack up just proportion-wise to the Classics. Because like I said, I display these guys kind of together in my little display back there. The scale's not quite right. Like, you can definitely tell that these are from two different lines. These guys' heads are much smaller. They're a little bit taller. But overall, I don't think that it's different enough to be distracting. I definitely think you can display all these figures together. And I got one more figure I think that falls into our oddity category. I probably could have just done a whole video on all these figures I bought and done it as just a standalone video, but I haven't got them all together. I've been kind of picking them up slowly over time, but it's from the Indiana Jones Adventure series. So I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, but there was no Indiana Jones toys when I was a kid, so I just kind of made peace with it. And even though I would have liked to have a toy as a kid, it's basically one character.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can build a whole play scenario around it like you can with everything else I collect. G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, you know. So I always would have liked a figure, but I was okay with not having one. But with the new movie out, Hasbro put out a line of 6-inch Indiana Jones figures. I started with getting Indiana Jones based on his look from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then I thought, well, maybe I should get an old man version of Indiana Jones from Dial of Destiny. So I got that. And then I got the bad guy, the Nazi from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is Tot or Tot.
Yeah. Tot.
And then I got the... well, my wife bought me... She saw me humming and hawing whether I should buy these things or not. And she bought me Dinner Jacket, Indiana Jones, and Marion Ravenwood. So I've got those two coming to me for Christmas. And then I saw this guy the other day at Toys R Us as well. So this is Indiana Jones in his professor outfit for when he's teaching at the university. Just waiting for the dog to stop barking. Anyway, for accessories, he comes with the shield that from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Mm-hmm. He comes with the little parcel that his dad mails him, his diary in there. And the likeness, I think, is probably the best of my Indiana Jones figures so far.
Yeah, he does look pretty accurate.
The other Indiana Joneses I have, the hat is attached to the head, like it doesn't come off. And I think that maybe hurts it. I think the fact that you get to see Harrison's whole head in this figure allows it to kind of sell it a little bit better.
Yeah, that is on point.
Yeah.
Are you going to get the Grail Knight figure?
I don't. Probably not when he first comes out. I have pre-ordered, and I should have him probably in the next week or two when he shows up in the mail, is Henry Jones Sr., his father, which is Sean Connery. That was, I feel, the last one I needed. Like, there's a couple other side characters, like they made an action figure of Antonio Banderas from the new movie. Yeah. And if you've seen the new movie, that character is like, it's a very bit part. Yeah. Like, I don't need a figure of him. They made a figure of Sala, which is, that character's appeared in quite a few of the films, and he's one of Indy's friends. But again, he's not a character I ever really felt like I needed to play with a toy of him or anything, so I probably won't buy that either. So yeah, the Grail Knight, nah, I don't really need it. Like, he looks cool, but what I keep hoping with these figures is I don't know if there's much of a demand. I don't think any kids are interested in them. And because the movie bombed, I don't even think a lot of collectors are necessarily even scooping them up. That I'm hoping all the figures will end up at discount eventually, and maybe then I can scoop in there and pick up some of the characters like Sala and the Grail Knight and those guys at a discount. So, anyway, there's that. So those are our oddities. This is the toy room. What do you think? You know, let me know. I'm curious what you think. If you have any suggestions on things I should do in here before I really kind of finalize it, I'm not much for decor myself, so I think I managed to come up with a decent looking room. But
For sure.
all right, so why don't you sign us out of here, Chad, since I did all the talking tonight.
All right. So if you liked our video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave us comments. We love talking with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you soon because we're going to shoot another video right now. So until then, ciao.
Keep thinking about the Roman Empire.
Oh, the Roman Empire.